I know what you're thinking. Why are we on the beach again, right? And then what happened to this guy's home? Well, first of all, I don't live in that. That's the lifeguard tower. And then they pulled it to the side. I don't know what's going on. There must be some waves coming up. And secondly, yes, you're right. There is a new camera. This is Sony A7R Mark V. And we're gonna talk about it. Sony A7R V is a 61 megapixel full frame sensor camera. It has a backside illuminated CMOS sensor. But besides the Beyond's XR processing unit, it also has an AI processing unit which allows this camera to use artificial intelligence and deep learning to focus or for auto white balance. This is why I brought my external recorder so we can record it tracking the autofocus and see what's happening. Sony says this AI-based autofocus can not only track your face and eye up to 60% better, it can also track your body. There you go. It can track your body. And estimate where your eye is so you can prepare the focus accordingly. What that means is this camera can track your face, track your eye, track your head, and then track your body, and then track your head tilt situation and keep the focus locked on you very easily. So right now you can see the focus that's locked into my eye. I'm wearing a hat, I have this beard, and if I wear a mask, as you can see, it still sees my eye. Let's wear sunglasses and see what that's gonna do. And still, we're seeing the eye. Let me go back a little bit. And then come back. I see that the focus is locked to my eye. Let's bring down the hat. Put the mask off. It still knows where my eye is. Let me turn around. How did it do? As far as I can see, it's locked into my eye. Yeah, AI autofocus for you right there. You can also register a face and have the camera focus on that person when there are other people in the shot, which means if it is someone's birthday, you can make sure the camera keeps the focus on whoever is celebrating their birthday. Check out Jenna's video for a great demonstration of this feature. And the eye focus actually does not focus on your eyelashes. It focuses on the eye itself. But that's not the only thing it can do. It can track animals and birds, actually more animals than cats and dogs, insects. It can track cars, trains, and planes. And all of this works in photo and video mode. And of course, all this AI-based processing works for auto white balance as well. Now let's talk about the design of this camera. The design of this camera has something that has been making me extremely jealous because it has a tilt and flip out screen. Best of both worlds working fantastic together. This is everything I wanted. First of all, when it comes to flip out screen, it doesn't work great when this camera is on a gimbal or when it's on my tripod in the house. The flip out screen doesn't work for me. That's why I like the tilt screen, and that's why I like A1 a lot. This can tilt like A1 and flip out like FX3 or A7S3 or A7 IV. It does that all, and it's a beautiful design. And I hope we can send our cameras back and they can switch the screens with these new ones. And the LCD is actually bigger. It's 3.2 inches. It is wider. It has the 9.44 million dot EVF that we know and love from A7S3 and A1. And it is clearer than life itself. As expected, it takes two memory cards. They can be UHS-1, UHS-2, or CF Express Type A. On the top, it has the still movie SNQ dial, which makes things a lot easier when it comes to switch between modes. And it has a button so you don't accidentally change it. It has the right and left dials that can be customized to exposure, shutter speed, or other stuff. And it has, of course, a multi-interface hot shoe. Which means you can mount a microphone like this ECM-B10 and without any cables, it can work with the camera. The buttons are same as the late alpha cameras. It has HDMI Type A, which supports 16-bit RAW output. It has flash sync terminal, a mic jack, a headphone jack, USB-C with power delivery, also that supports USB Ethernet adapter, and also it has a USB micro. Needless to say, the screen supports touch and it has the newest menu with the newest features like swipe up for FN menu or quick settings. This camera can shoot videos up to full pixel readout in 420 10-bit 8K 24 frames per second. And if you switch to 4K up to 60 frames per second, you can record in 422 10-bit in H.264, H.265 or all intra. But these two modes, 8K 24 and 4K 60 or 50, has 18% crop. But if you switch to 4K 24, there is no crop. And then, of course, since this is a 61 megapixel sensor, you can switch to APS-C mode, and in APS-C mode you can shoot up to 4K 30 frames per second, and that is oversampled from 6.2K. But anything above that, it kicks you out of the APS-C mode. And when it comes to slow motion, you can do 1080p up to 120 frames per second. And of course, you can shoot in S-Log3, a Cinetone, and HLG. And in S-Log3, the base ISOs are 800 and 2500. Now, of course, whenever we talk about the video, there is overheating. Let's talk about overheating because Sony says you can record 8K video up to 30 minutes. But you know how companies are. They do this in some certain situations to give you the best result. In my tests, I'm sorry to call you out, Sony, once again, the results were a little different. I was able to record for 1 hour and 5 minutes and 52 seconds. It showed the overheat sign at 58 minute area, and then the camera heated up to 54 degrees Celsius, which is 129.2 Fahrenheit. And the house, the living room, was 75 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 23.9 Celsius. And the battery drained from 99% to 24%. So now let's test out these subject recognition features. There it is, there's the bird recognition. We're recognizing the bird's eye. As you can see, it's estimating where the eye is gonna be. All right, bird, you passed. Now let's take a look at this friend. I assume it must be a little challenging for AI to differentiate the sand and the dog during this shot, considering the color. However, A7R5 performs well and keeps the dog in focus. By the way, I shot these with 70 to 200mm lens, and since that lens is so fast, I set the aperture to 22 under this bright sunlight. Now, let's check out one of the new things this camera can recognize. Car is recognized. This is handheld, by the way. Active stabilization is turned on with 70 to 200. Nicely done behind that trash can like that. Look at that. So of course, because the car disappeared behind that lifeguard tower, we lost the focus for a second, but then it quickly came back. Now let's look at something else. By the way, I'd like to mention that I shot this in 4K 24 with 70 to 200mm lens at 200 plus the APS-C crop on top of it so I can get closer to the plane like this. So what you're seeing is, besides the tracking, you're also seeing the new active stabilization this camera has in its body. This is not applied afterwards. And also I'm carrying the monitor as well, so while I'm shooting this. All right, here we are. Here's the setup. Let's do this. Let's see if we can catch some insects. I see some over there. I think it's gonna be good. And it was. I was able to capture this little guy and autofocus was locked on it. But just like that, it flew away. When it comes to active mode, Sony says the active mode is improved and you can turn on the active mode up to 4K 60 frames per second. And what's interesting about this camera compared to the other Sony cameras is that you can turn on active mode while you're still recording. So I can go here and just tap on this and switch to active mode like that. And as you can see, active mode has 12.8% crop. But of course, there's no active mode in 8K or 1080p 120 frames per second. Okay, right now we're shooting in 4K 24. Active stabilization, active mode is turned on. And we are in aperture priority, aperture priority. And white balance is set to daytime. And I'm on my one wheel. We're going around, of course, as is tradition. I talk about this a lot, but this camera records gyro data. So if you don't want to stabilize while you're recording, you can stabilize later on with electronic image stabilization. And for that, there's this app called Catalyst Browse. Catalyst Browse is free. There's also Catalyst Prepare, which is a subscription model. And you can bring your footage in there and you can apply the stabilization the way you want it, however you want it. This applies 12.8 crop for active mode. You may not want that much, you may want just 8%, so you can do that in Catalyst Browse, but Catalyst Browse is electronic image stabilization. This is optical image stabilization. Okay, right now everything is set to auto. We are in S-Log 3, but exposure is at +1. And we're gonna do the tunnel test again and see how it handles, because in case you don't know, tunnel test is something I do to see how the camera performs in low light and how it adapts to low light, then back to direct sunlight. It's the ultimate test for the ultimate cameras. This looks gorgeous. Oh wow, I see the zebras on my face. Everything's proper. We're getting out. And we're out. The zebras are still on my face. Everything adapted properly. Okay. Now let's talk about photos, because this is where this camera gets interesting. As you know, the S line, Sony A7S, S stands for speed, and Sony A7R, R stands for resolution. So this is more a photo-oriented camera. First photo, video, second oriented camera, where S series camera is more video oriented. In photo mode, this camera can take up to 10 frames per second burst photo, up to 583 compressed raw photos. It has pixel shift mode, and in pixel shift mode, it combines 16 images together, and it can give you 240.8 megapixel photos. And it has focus bracketing up to 299 images. And how focus bracketing works is, with each photo, it changes the focus incrementally, and then you bring all those images into your photo editing software and put all the photos that are in focus together to have a really nice looking photo. This camera has 15 stop dynamic range, and of course when it comes to bells and whistles, it has autofocus assist, it has focus breathing compensation, it has focus map, it has variable shutter, it has emphasized recording displays. You see this red around the screen. That's the emphasized recording display that tells you that you're recording. It actually makes things a lot easier to understand while you're in an environment like this. It has self-timer for video. I've seen this on Sony ZV-1F for the first time, and it's in this one too. What that means is just like a timer for a photo. You can set a timer for video, and then you can run and then pause, and then it starts recording, and you act like, you know those vlogs where it looks like the guy is just walking, but it probably took him 10 minutes to set up the camera first, but it looks like he's walking carelessly. Yeah, can work for those kind of situations. And of course, when you connect this to your computer, you can use it as a webcam. And you can stream up to 4K 15 frames per second or 1080p 60 frames per second. You can also simultaneously record into the camera while streaming. And now let's talk about things you should know. This camera has a little bit of rolling shutter effect, and that may be something to look out for while planning a video. In the video mode, having all these variations of crops may get confusing, especially if you're like me who leaves the house with one lens for filming talking head. In H.265 mode, it still doesn't have 4K 30 frames per second. It goes from 4K 24 to 60. So if you like to shoot in 30 frames per second, you need to switch to H.264. Even though it is amazing, the AI autofocus sometimes seems to be getting a little confused. The focus always doesn't jump from one thing to another, but the display on the screen starts showing different stuff. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be fixed with an update, but right now it seems like deep learning may have some more learning to do. Other than that, as an A7R3 and an A7R4 owner, this is a fantastic R series camera. Having AI and deep learning in a camera is a game changer. I feel like Sony raised the bar quite significantly with this camera. Well, thank you very much for watching this episode, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know what you think about Sony A7R5 in the comment section below. Is this a camera that you're interested? What do you think about the crops? What do you think about, the way it performs? What do you think about its amazing flip out screen? Yeah, everybody likes it. We like it. Everybody likes it. And until I see you the next time, take really good care of yourselves. And if the mountain lions don't eat me, I'll see you probably in the other video. All right.